we are way more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And we just have to dig into that. We have to unleash it. And when you have this attitude of just not taking no for an answer, the things you can accomplish, like defy the odds. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Lifeonaire Show podcast, where we help you live the life you want and build a business to support that. So my name is Jason Wojo, and I got Polish Peter here, the co-host. Dude, today we have a really cool episode that I think is really relevant in today's culture. And it is about allowing other people influence you, your choices, your decisions, what you're capable of, what you're not capable of, what your life should look like. You know, this is something really close to Lifeonaire because all of us have been influenced by some extent, by some person, whether it's our parents, our colleagues, our friends, our coworkers, as to like what our life should look like, and you know what's possible and what's not possible for us, what's realistic, what's not realistic. So on this episode, man, I really want to dive into like how do you give someone the strength, and how do you know when you should do your thing versus listen to other people and take those things into consideration.
Especially when what they're saying and or against or whatever seems impossible. Think about it this way. If the world says this is not possible, like this is impossible, how you go about, going through it and not letting the world influence you about this. So I know you have a story. I think it was something on a tricycle that you had, the tricycle thing, or?
Yeah, they don't have those in Poland. So
we just go, dude. We're just one wheel. You know what I mean? When we do bicycles, we just go straight for one wheel.
Yeah, a unicycle exactly. Is a Polish bicycle.
That's it, man.
No, man. Well, like, listen, like this. Yeah. So what Peter's referring to is a story that really, like, this influenced me in a big way because it really set the frame for like listening to other people. And I don't want to say don't listen to other people, because there is wisdom in wise counsel. And, getting the right counsel is important, but it can very quickly define you. And so what Peter is referring to is in the 1900s, 1999 to be exact.
That's right. See, you were on a tricycle, actually.
In the 1900s.
See, that's what they did back then. Yeah.
I was in a motorcycle accident and I dislocated my hip. And the doctor told me it took four physicians to pop it back in. It was really bad. And he said there's a lot of damage. There's a lot of something called avascular necrosis, AVN, which essentially means all the blood supply to the hip is cut off and damaged, and the joint is really compromised. And he, after I went back for my follow-up appointment, he's like, hey, I just got to prepare you for this. This is quite severe. The injury is really bad. And he's like, there's a big chance you're going to need a hip fusion. And a hip fusion, if you're not familiar with it, is exactly what it sounds like, which is they fuse your hip at a fixed angle. So you're usually it's like a slight angle, like say a 30-degree angle, so that you can kind of walk, but you can kind of sit, but you can't really do anything. Really horrible. And man, like hearing that, dude, like I was like, wow, this is I can't even. At this point, I was like my late 20s, could not imagine this being my future. Like I just couldn't.
That's a life-changing kind of
dude, life-changing,
right? Yeah,
life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, if that's not, what's some other prognosis? Like, what's another possibility? It's like, well, listen, kid, I don't want to get your hopes up, but like, if that doesn't happen, you're going to need a hip replacement.
Like, if the hip fusion doesn't happen?
If the hip fusion, I'm going to need a hip replacement. And he said, it won't happen right away, but, in a couple of years, probably, and he's like, the bad thing is, these things aren't designed to last a lifetime, and they're not really meant for athletic people. This is back in the 90s again. And so he's like, you probably need 2 or 3 of them over your lifetime. And I'm like, well, if that doesn't happen, what's the next choice? He's like, man, we're really pulling the straws here, but like, if you don't get, you're going to have debilitating arthritis like your whole life, and you're going to be on a lot of medication. And I just kept like, I kept thinking to myself, none of these are acceptable. And so I ended up leaving, and I went home, and, after, literally, really sobbing, frankly, like about thinking about my future like this. Like, here I am, a young guy, did college sports, was athletic, did water skiing, barefoot water skiing, all this stuff. Like my life revolved around being active, like rock climbing, all this stuff. And
You did track and field or something, didn't you?
yeah, I did pole vault in
Pole
college.
vaulting?
Yeah. Yep.
You did work with poles even back then.
I didn't. So, dude, good one, bro. So,
Yeah.
but dude, here I am. Like, this is like, it really was like, I mean, of course, I'm not sleeping, like, and I'm in this huge brace, and like, you know, I couldn't walk, couldn't do anything. I was in crutches. And I realized, I'm like, you know what, like, screw that. Like, I'm going to do my own research. So I got online. By the way, I did not have my scientific education that I have now. But I got online, I got on, you know, Medline, started looking up articles dealing with avascular necrosis. And long story short is I determined that I had roughly like a 3 to 5% chance based on my injuries of this stuff not happening. The things
What they told you of not happening?
No, yeah, of not happening. The things that he told me, yeah.
So like 97% of the
Chance
things
that I was
would
going to have one of
happen.
these issues.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to be that 3%. I'm going to be that 5%. And I decided there was some literature that suggested, like, you know, trying to get active earlier is going to be beneficial for you. And so I could not walk, but I had access to the lake in our town, and I would hobble up to the end of the dock. And this is probably within a few weeks after my surgery. I don't remember the exact timeline. Sorry, it was not my surgery, but of the injury. And I would put the crutches down, and I would try to sit down on the dock, and I'd kind of flop into the water, and I would try to kick a little bit because I couldn't do any weight bearing exercise. And so I would start kicking. Dude, I made it like 5 feet. My hip's killing me. I'm out of breath. I'm like sinking. I'm getting ready to like drown. I'm like, trying to get back to the dock. And then I had to maneuver my way out of there. And I did it again the next day. And I went like a foot or two further. And then the next day. And then, dude, I went there every day.
You did it by yourself?
Yeah. No supervision. I do not recommend this. I do not recommend this.
That was smart.
Dude, come on, man. Yeah. I'm also the same guy that, you know, was thinking I was going to be a Navy SEAL. So I tied my hands and feet together and jumped off my dock to try to drown proof myself. So I'm not saying I'm the brightest
by
bulb.
yourself, nobody there.
No.
Another smart move. Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen,
do not
just
listen.
in full
This is
disclosure,
not life advice for, like, if you are listening to this show, we are not telling you to do this. Do not do this. So, dude, I got to the point where I could make it, you know, 10 yards, 20 yards, 50 yards. I made it like 100 yards, like made it down to the peninsula and back to the dock. Like, and this, by the way, this wasn't overnight. This took months. That I got to the point where I could swim around the pond and eventually to the beach, which was, you know, I don't know how far it was, man. It was over an hour swim. And this is all through, now by this, I did have somebody riding next to me on the jet ski because I'm swimming through the middle of the lake, you know, through 3 different ponds, and I don't want to get run over. But I made it, and during this time, I also started even walking. Right, I started walking again, trying to get my hip active. Then I started jogging, and dude, I hate running, but like jogging was something I'm like, I need to put weight on this hip, and I need to get it. Like, I got up to the point, dude, I ran 10 miles. I'd run like 10 miles like this.
Wow.
And by the way, I absolutely despise running, but I did it because I just had this attitude of like, I'm going to do everything I can within my power to make sure I'm not this diagnosis. I don't meet this prognosis. And, you know, within a year, I was competing in bodybuilding again, like all of this stuff. I mean, and here we are today, you know, praise the Lord. We're literally almost we're over 25 years after that. And I haven't had any issues, any. And it just made me realize, like, what would have happened if I would have just given up? And what would have happened if I would have accepted his prognosis? And you know, I think...
You ever think about that? Like, especially on decisions that you have to make that, you know, in life?
Dude, it's crazy, man. Well, you know, because those decisions I mean, we hear people like get cancer and they give up. And then someone else gets cancer and they're like, you know, I'm going to beat it. And that attitude has such an influence on it. And I am not saying, you know, I don't know, right? But I do believe, like, I had to do everything within my power. And the most important thing is I didn't listen to him. And I could easily say like, hey, here's a physician, highly accredited, expert in this field. Who am I? I don't know anything about anything. And yet
Yeah.
I decided no, like that did not sit with me well. And so like I want to just like use that as a lesson for people, like to not let other, I don't care like who it is, like be very careful about letting other people
Yeah.
decide your future.
Yeah. So I got a bunch of questions for you, and I want you to answer them immediately. All right. No,
Are
I'm
these
serious.
real questions or joke questions?
No, real questions. So listen. So couple of questions about it because you said that it was in the 20s, and you didn't have the scientific background at that particular point, right?
Right.
To make a decision. And you said they give you like 2 or 3 different options, and none of them were good. What do you think you made you say no? I'm not buying into it because I mean, think about this. Like you just said that there was people who will literally accept, okay, this is it. That's my fate. I'm going to go with it, kind of a thing, right? But for whatever reason, what you said, no, I don't buy into it. I'm going to go and be the 3%. What do you think made you do that?
Well,
Is
I
there something that
wanted to,
believed about you, or is it?
I didn't, it didn't compute for me, man, because like I felt something inside of me. Like, I'm like, this cannot be my fate. Like, this cannot be how I'm going to go through life. And so what I decided to do is like, because I've always been a little bit analytical, I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to try to find out, like, can I put a number to this? And then once I had that number, I'm like, okay, well, there is hope. Like if there was, and by the way, maybe if I would have found out it was a 0% chance, I'm like, well, may as well try anyway. Like I could not accept I couldn't accept that's the way I was going to live.
Right.
And I just refused to accept it.
So it wasn't really the number. It's just you didn't accept because you
Well,
said
the
like,
number
well,
gave me a little bit of
0%
hope.
is still,
Like the
yeah,
number gave me a little bit of hope,
a
but
little
I
bit of hope.
still, yeah.
Yep. Got it.
But even if the numbers would have been, I was obviously hoping that the numbers were better.
All right.
But they weren't in my case. And so like I was like, you know what? Like, why not go for it? Like what I mean, this is something, but dude, we see this in Lifeonaire all the time, right? Like where people
Mhm.
are afraid to go for it because they don't want to fail. And so in my case, okay, I fail. Well, I'd much rather fail knowing I tried my best and I gave myself every opportunity to make this happen versus like just roll over and, give in.
Yep. All right. So my next question is, so now you decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not buying to this conversation. I'm going to go and do something about it, right? I'm going to research it. Or when you did some research, one in the pool, not in the pool, the lake,
Yep.
and you're doing those kinds of things. Okay. Did you ever tell anybody, like in your family, that's what you're going to be doing?
No, I didn't.
Okay. How come?
I don't know, man. Like I didn't.
Like, let me ask you a different question. Was there anyone in your life that would tell you, what are you doing? You're crazy. You're gonna, whatever.
Well, I mean, I had people being like, well, "Dude, what are you doing?" Like, because people would see me and they're like, "What?" My mom would see me and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm trying to rehab my hip." And she'd be like, and by the way, dude, this is realize this is 90s parenting and 80s parenting where they're like,
Yeah.
you're fine. I'd come in the house like on a regular day, all like bloody from like crashing my bike, and my mom would be like, you're okay. Like, let's clean it up.
All right.
So
Exactly right.
but I guess I just wanted to like keep it to myself. Like I wanted that like I wanted to prove it to myself. Like, and I didn't want people's influence. I didn't want their opinions. I didn't want them. I didn't, whether it was someone saying like, yeah, good for you, you can do it.
Hmm.
Or someone saying like, don't get your hopes up, kid. Or don't like, I didn't want anybody's opinion. Like I just wanted to keep it to myself.
So you think that helped you by keeping it to yourself as opposed to
I
letting
don't know,
people?
because we have people in life that share their goals and share those things and get it and get the support. And maybe if I would have had those, people in around me, that I felt like, were qualified to like, and had my best interest in heart. And I think I do have those people in my life, to be clear.
Yeah.
My mom loves me, but I also had people close to me being like, dude, you're milking this. Like, I'm like, well, I'm like, dude, I'm in a like brace from like my knee to like my waist. And,
What do you mean milking this? What does that mean?
oh, like, like, come on, man. Like it's not that bad. And I'm like,
Oh, like you're
but I
over,
didn't, but I wouldn't, yeah, but I didn't
Okay.
even explain like the data or the prognosis. I didn't even want to hear it.
Okay.
So yeah, man, that's a good question though.
So listen, do you think it's valuable? Because I'm hearing there's two different types of people, right, in the conversation. Could be one could be like, "What are you doing? You're crazy. Like, this is not going to work. You should just, not do this." And then the other camp is like sort of like encouraging you. You got this. Keep moving forward. Supportive kind of a thing, right? If you do tell people, do you think it matters one or the other? Like if you tell one per group versus the other?
Well, I think there's people that are internally driven and externally driven. Like, for instance, for me, man, like when I mentioned before the Navy SEAL thing, I also like I filled a backpack full of sand and went and put on work boots and went running in the woods. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I just didn't. I've just always been like that personally, where like I don't. I'm just more internally driven, and maybe that's part
Okay.
of the. You know what I mean? And some
All right.
people, I think, but I do think. I also think that like I didn't want to share it maybe because like what if it didn't happen, man? I didn't want people to feel bad for me. Like,
Mm,
like oh,
okay.
like he's, and if it didn't work, like if I didn't want people to have pity on me.
So what I'm hearing from that conversation up to this point is like knowing yourself is important, meaning in
Yeah.
order to get to the end goal, right? If you're more of like an internal person and that helps you in tough situations, like to do that as opposed to, go against like know yourself, right? If you need someone that's gonna pull you, that's gonna, encourage you because you're that type of a person external, then bring those people into your life, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
agree with me? All right.
For
So my
sure.
next
For sure.
question is this. And this is sort of like a uh, I don't know how to say this question because I think we already know the answer, but I want to answer. I want you to tell me why you kept going. Was there any point during this whole entire journey, let's say going to the pool, that you had conversation
The
in your
lake.
own
Yeah.
mind? What the heck are you doing? Like, just stop. Are you crazy? This is not going to work. This is not going to happen.
Oh, for sure, dude. And it was very, very painful to be clear. Like, my leg did not want to move. Like it was forcing it and it was very painful. And I just kept bringing myself like, hey, I just kept telling myself like, hey, what's the alternative? Going through this pain and potentially being disappointed versus a life of like not being able to walk again. That sounds a whole lot more painful for me, more than some short-term pain. Like I'm not going to do, I was a little bit concerned. I'm like, maybe I don't want to do any, I don't want to do more damage. And like, so there was that a little bit
Mhm.
of concern, but I did enough research and I felt like I was not being an absolute lunatic with it. Um,
Okay. So the alternative was the worst pain.
yeah, the, the,
Like in
the
your
alternative
future,
was of living
possible.
with the alternative of living like the other way this could have
Yeah.
gone was way worse.
The possible future would be the worst
That's
pain.
right. Yep.
Okay. So that's what kept you going. All right. So now, did you look to help you get through it? Like, did you set like yourself like a mini goals or whatever? Like, if I can go for the next 5 minutes or something to keep you going, or how would you go through this?
For me, it was always just trying to make it like the next milestone. So, for instance, like when it started off swimming, I'd literally like made it 5 feet and turned around. And then the next time I said, okay, I see that little tree on the shoreline. I'm going to try to make it parallel with that. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I can make it to that next dock. And then from there, like, you know what? I think I can make it to the next dock. And then, hey, I'm going to make it to, the peninsula. So it was absolutely these little things. And like those goals kind of, and the goal was always to progress. Like, and I didn't, I didn't hit it every time, but
Mhm.
that was always the goal. And then that kept me kind of objectively moving forward and making forward progress.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So many
Same
goals,
with
many
running, dude. Like
milestones.
same with
Yeah.
running. I'd be like, okay, first, of course, is walking. Like I'm going to walk 5 minutes. That was literally the goal. I'm
Yeah.
going to walk 5 minutes. Okay. Gosh, man, that wasn't too bad. Let it rest. I'm going to walk 8 minutes or 10 minutes, like, and
Mhm.
then it got to like, hey, I'm gonna run for an hour, like those kinds of things, and it just kept building. And I think those micro goals are valuable.
Yeah. So my next question is, and this might be because it gets asked a lot, but I'm really curious for you. Um, if you had to go back, right before this whole accident, would you like, I'll do whatever it takes to avoid that accident or all kind of a thing, like not go through it again? Or was this experience valuable? Like wouldn't change it?
Dude,
Like what are
that's
your
such
thoughts
a
about
hard
that?
question, man. Because I think there was an incredible. It was. I mean, it's easy to say now because I'm on the other side of that, but like I
Yeah.
cannot express to you like what a stressful period of my life that was, where you really don't know the answer. Like, it's easy when you look back and you're like, okay, I'm okay now. But there was a very powerful lesson, man. And I think it really strengthened me a lot. And it had multiple effects. Like, this not giving up it's served me in bodybuilding. It served me in my degrees. It served me in business, and so it's a hard one, man. And it's an easy question to ask now, knowing that things are okay. But if I wouldn't have known that, like, obviously, I think I would have just been like, hey, let's not get run off the road on my motorcycle.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. So just make sure your wife hears this podcast too.
Right. Well, dude, I told her I don't ride on the street anymore, just the track.
Okay. So give me a top maybe 1 to 3 lessons that you got out of this whole thing.
So the first thing is, I think we are, as people, and I don't mean just physically, I mean mentally, we are way more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And we just have to dig into that. We have to unleash it. We have to flip that switch, and we have to just decide, and it is a decision. It really is a decision. You just got to flip that switch and dig into it and pull it out of you. And that is something, whether it's you feel like giving up, or you feel like defeated, or you feel like you're not moving as forward as fastly or as quickly as you'd like to, like, that's a huge one. And when you have this attitude of just not taking no for an answer, the things you can accomplish, like, defy the odds. And they defy any logic in some cases, where, like, if you just will keep going and keep and just continue, like, that, you will, like, break through, We've talked about that before, you and I, of, like, just showing up and being consistent and doing the work. And regardless of whether you have proof or not, like, and that's another thing too. Like, you may not have any proof that this is going to work, but you just got to do it anyway. And you know what? If it doesn't work, okay, but you tried. And, like, that is, yes, it can be disappointing, but I think the alternative is far more costly and scary, which is, like, just settling. And I know we're talking about, a motorcycle accident here, but it's also like a metaphor for life and showing up in whatever it is you want to do. And also the second lesson I'd say is not listening to other people. And, like, here's a guy again who's highly credentialed, who's a successful physician. By the way, I have, like, had thoughts of, like, reaching out to this guy and be like, hey, just, like, guess what? But no, I didn't do that. And so whether it's a teacher or a parent or a friend or like, it doesn't matter, like, take their advice and by the way, I know I'm going to get hate mail now. But just
you don't already, I would imagine you already get hate mail. I mean, you have to for some.
And I'm not, but and listen, man, I know most people want what's best for you. Like, I believe that. I think most people are good, but just be careful of somebody else capping or defining your success and like telling you, like, what's realistic and what's not, and what you can do and what you can't do. Like, and cause that is just and that, we talk about this in Lifeonaire all the time, being influenced by others. And, like, so like, don't let others discourage you, I guess, is the lesson the biggest lesson. Don't let others discourage you from what it is you want to achieve. Like, that's probably a lot better than saying, like, don't let others influence you, but don't let others just discourage you from what you want to do.
Okay. One last question I have. So, motorcycle accident in your 20s. When people go through something traumatic like this, a lot of times, like in this particular example, they will not ever get back on the bike. Obviously, you're getting on the bike, you're riding a bike, you're riding on a track. Granted, you're probably going like 20 miles an hour. You say you go like 100 something, but I think you're going like 20. But listen, in all seriousness, why do you think, what had you get back on the bike? Like, why didn't that stop you? Like, what was the conversation there? Like,
yeah, dude, I knew. So so my bike was trashed. My stepdad actually helped me rebuild it. And yeah, cause he had a metal fabrication company, and he kind of, like, helped me, like, straighten out the frame was bent, like, everything. Like, the bike was pretty gnarly. But I knew that, and I knew that if I didn't get back on that bike, like it would leave some sort of sight. I felt like first of all, like it's like you fall off the horse, you have to get back on. And like, so as terrifying as it was, like I realized like I have to do this. And so, it was like the next year, like I got back on the bike. As soon as I was able to, I got back on that bike, and like, and then on the track, like it's a great, it's just a great place to, I think, exercise your control of fear, and really it's a great testing ground, I think, for accomplishing those things. And it's like, especially having, and by the way, a lot of people on the track, you'll notice like they've crashed in the past. And by the way, that street crash was my first crash, but I've crashed multiple times in races on the track. Once
maybe
waking
the
up
bike is telling you something. Maybe this isn't your thing. I mean,
well, I don't race anymore. I just do track days. But like, I remember, one time I woke up in the infirmary and I had a concussion. I didn't even remember. I remember the crash. Like someone cut me off and hit my front tire, and I woke up like in the infirmary. So, but you got to keep going. You got to keep going. Like, don't let like.
Yeah. My question is, how did you not let the fear stop you? That's the thing. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I just knew the consequences if I didn't do it, that I'd never get back on again.
There you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they knew the consequences of letting it stop you. You know what I mean?
Well, it's also like, where does it, once you let fear permeate one part of your life, like I think it spreads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and all of a sudden, you get afraid of other things, and you're more hesitant in other areas. Like, and so I think, but here's the cool thing too, is like, if you overcome fear in one area, that also spreads to other areas.
Yeah. So, I mean, dude, I think that's a great story. I mean, it's a powerful story, I think, to be able to use as a metaphor for anything in life. Because I think most people have this, quote unquote, a motorcycle in their life. You know what I mean? Every single one of us, I think, does. Some shape or form, there's a motorcycle. And you need to get back on it, and you need to, sometimes what's impossible is possible. And I think for me, it's similar. Like the impossible is possible, because if you look at life, look at so many different things in life. If people in today's world, in any world, I mean, for the last 2,000, 3,000 years, if they thought that the impossible was impossible, guess what? We wouldn't be where we're at. We wouldn't have iPhones. We wouldn't have just simple rockets or whatever, anything. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that they look at from the perspective of the impossible is possible. So dude, thanks for sharing the story. I want to just say one more thing, because I think you constantly look to improve. You improved on your hip. You improved on that. I think next thing is your face. I think, that needs to work on.
Dude, I was waiting for it. I saw this coming a mile away, bro. All right, well, listen, hope you guys got something out of that story. Hopefully, and I hope that's encouraging to you, that like you get to define what it is you want to do. You can make it happen. We believe in you. We're cheering for you. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. We'll see you next week, everyone. Take care.